Okay, so the first question is probably the most common question as well that I receive, is about accommodation here in the capital, and it's how much should I put aside to stay long term in a 2-bedroom apartment, for example, here in the capital. That's really hard to answer because the accommodation varies so massively. You can stay in a compound that has security, may have Wi-Fi, may have a swimming pool and a gymnasium. So obviously your budget's going to be much higher. I would say if you're looking for that sort of accommodation, maybe start around $1,000 per month, and it will go up from there. If you want to stay in a house that isn't in a compound, so it's a standalone house, then they tend to be a little bit lower, but you're not going to get all those same facilities. You're probably not going to get a gymnasium, a swimming pool, almost definitely not. And then you're obviously not going to get security and Wi-Fi, etc. So you need to sort those things out for yourself if needed. And like I say, they're a bit lower. They would tend to cost, I think, below the 1,000 mark. So you're looking at 300 to 400 for a real low end for maybe a studio or 1-bedroom apartment, up to kind of the 700, 800, 900 for a slightly bigger place, maybe a 2 or 3 bedroom place. But like I say, it really does vary. I know I've seen accommodation going for 300 and I've seen accommodation going for $4,000, $5,000. Say if you're trying to organize your accommodation, your long-term accommodation, then you need to be here in Dili to really do it. It's one of those things that you kind of need to be in the capital, and you need to be WhatsApping the person that's renting it and going and looking at the place and negotiating with them directly. Is really quite hard to do if you're doing it outside a country in advance of getting here. Although that may be a little bit easier if you are renting through one of those compounds. They may be a little bit more used to that sort of engagement. Whereas, if you're local, you're really looking on Facebook, on the Dili expats group, and seeing what's available and then reaching out and, like I say, going and looking at that place for yourself. One of the other questions that I've had recently is about public transport here in Dili, Timor-Leste. And really, you've kind of got two options for public transport. You've got the microlet system, which are these little colourful buses that cruise around the city on a set route. You can actually look online and find a microlet map to see where each microlet goes, so that each one is a different colour and they've got a big number printed on as well. They cost 25 cents to do a circuit, and to hop on them, you just kind of flag them down on the side of the road, hop on the microlet, and then when you want to get off, you just tap your coin on the inside of the microlet and it will pull over wherever you tap. So they're quite useful, and I definitely used them quite a bit when I first came to Timor, before I got the bicycle, and very cheap as well. The other way that you can get around Dili is by taxis. So there's two types of taxis. There's the common yellow taxi, which are the older cars that kind of cruise around real slow, and again, you can just kind of wave them down, and they'll also they'll be sitting outside of popular kind of hangout spots like Timor Plaza, like some of the restaurants around the city. So you just need to negotiate your rate before you hop into the taxi, and then, as always, they kind of start off a bit higher and then you can kind of negotiate down. Most taxis that I take around the city here, if you're taking like a 10 to 15 minute taxi ride, which is pretty much going to get you anywhere in Dili, it tends to cost me about $3. The conversations will start off at $5, and then you just kind of negotiate. But I would say $2 to $3 seems about average for any taxi around Dili, Timor-Leste. The type of taxi that you can take here is the blue taxi. Now they're actually on meters. The cars are much newer, but there's much fewer of them. I don't know how many, but I would guess there's like less than 10 here. You can actually call them up and arrange for them to come and collect you, and they're the only transport service here in Dili that operates after dark. So the yellow taxis will stop, the microlets will stop, but those blue taxis will keep on going. So for me, that's why the bicycle works, because I can keep cycling at night with the lights on, obviously, and not rely on those handful of blue taxis. Wow, starting to get sweat on, but gonna keep going. It's 1:30, It's sweltering, but yeah, a few more questions to get through. So the next question is about banking. Again, it's quite a common question I get asked. How easy is it to set up a local bank here in Timor-Leste? Now, I would say generally it's quite easy. You just need a little bit of patience and a little bit of time. From experience here, setting up an account, it's probably going to take you kind of half a day. So you kind of go along in the morning or the afternoon after lunch, say after 2 o'clock. But I would always suggest the morning time is better and more productive. And then, yeah, you wait in the queue. And like I say, that can take anywhere from 1 to 4 hours to get through. I think in terms of ID, you just need a passport to show and a local address here. And yeah, it was fairly straightforward once we actually got through the queuing system and got to the kiosk. It was pretty easy. You get your ATM card, and then you can withdraw money from ATMs here in the capital. So in terms of what you can withdraw, there's a $900 limit per day, and that's 3 lots, so you can take out 300 per time. But also, one really important thing to remember coming in as a foreigner is that the MasterCard isn't accepted. So you need to bring a Visa card. MasterCard isn't accepted anywhere in Timor-Leste. Being in a cash economy here means you need to pretty much go to the ATM every week. And so that's what we do. There's lots of ATMs around Dili. There aren't so many when you get outside of Dili. Actually, there's hardly any. But within Dili, there's quite a few around. But I do find that often the first 1 or 2 I go to will be out of cash, or there's an error, so then I'll cycle on to the next one. So yeah, often I need to go to kind of 2 or 3 ATMs before I find one. And there's certain times of the month as well, like the end of the month when people are getting paid, those ATMs will be much busier and the banks will be much busier. So I just try to avoid those times. And finally, one of the questions I get asked lots and lots, is it safe here in Timor-Leste? Now that's really hard to answer. I find it quite hard because generally, yes, I find it safe, but it's like anywhere, you know, you kind of come across stuff that happens. We had a bicycle stolen. I've been hit off my bike once, as my partner has. So yeah, for context, we're both cyclists here in the capital. So we cycle every day for work, for commuting, for exercise. We've both been hit off 1 time each. No serious injuries, just a few bruises, etc. And other things that have happened, yeah, they're pretty minor and never have been kind of like violent or dangerous, but it's mostly kind of like petty theft. But I would say from the past 5 years living here, yeah, they've been pretty minor things. And I always say to people, yep, it's safe. You know, I cycle at night time with my lights on. That's been as good here as it has anywhere else. And yeah, as a cyclist, you just need to be switched on at all times. Scooters will pass you on the left and the right, and cars and scooters will pull out of junctions in front of you, and in particular people will also just walk out in front of you. So as long as you're switched on and ready to stop at any point, I would say yeah, it's been pretty safe overall. Okay, so it's getting way too hot there now. It's like 2 o'clock. There are kind of like half a dozen of the questions that I've had coming in the last couple of months. So I've actually responded to the people with lots of detail, but I thought you might find it useful to yeah, hear some of the responses. Like I say, a lot of the questions are all very common in terms of like housing, in terms of working here, in terms of money and safety. And so yeah, I thought you might find those useful. Now I'm going to cycle back along the waterfront here. This is a nice kind of quiet bit that goes out to Cristo Rey. At this time anyway, once it gets to 6 o'clock tonight, it will be crazy. Okay guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, hit like, hit subscribe, and we'll see you soon.